We are live, I'm pretty sure. Tristan, fellow A player, dude, I can't thank you enough for doing this. Recording to us live from Marbella. I'm in Florida. Another thing I absolutely love about doing this. But Tristan, welcome to the show, man. How are you doing?
Amazing, man. Thank you for having me. And yeah, I'm out in Marbella right now in Spain. Amazing lifestyle, amazing weather. Can't complain. Better than back home.
Hell yeah, dude. Living the absolute dream, as you said before this call, which I love to showcase on this. And speaking of that dream, where I really like to start with everybody on these episodes is taking us to the present moment, man. Like, what are you most excited about right now?
That's a great question. I think the simple answer on what I'm most excited about is the future, not only for myself and kind of like my personal growth, but for the business that I kind of operate and that I work for, and the potential of that industry and things of that nature. So yeah, just what the future holds. Never look back, man.
Yeah, I love that, man. We'll get into kind of the triggers behind all that as we get deeper today. But talk to me a little bit. It's called Home Services U? Is that who you're operating with right now?
Yeah, home service you. Yeah.
Nice. And you're the chief operating officer there. Talk to me about what you guys do. Talk to me about your experience in that role so far.
Yeah, for sure. So what we do is we essentially help men aged 18 to 40. Again, it's not like exclusive to that, but that's typically the primary demographic. We'll help men aged 18 to 40 either start a home service business or scale one. So a home service business is anything from like a window cleaning company to a pressure washing company to holiday lighting installations to permanent lighting. It's even like pest control and solar. It's all that kind of niche. And so we just essentially give them the blueprint to go out and make money and give them a proof of concept for that for whatever reason, whatever their motivation may be. And then if they already have an existing one doing anywhere from zero to $25,000 per month, then we help them systemize and kind of get off the truck and disassociate from the labor and focus more on the actual growth of the company to get to 50, 75, $100,000 per month without, being tied down to doing the labor or being in a specific geographic location.
Okay, yeah, very nice, man. And when did do you come from a blue collar background? Do you come from more of a marketing background? What do you talk to me about that a little bit?
No, no. So, I mean, when you say, do I come from a blue collar background, do you mean my upbringing or my professional skill set?
Either. Yeah. Talk to me about
Yeah,
your
no,
interest in the space even. Yeah.
no, no. I don't come from a blue collar background. Your typical family back home. Not white collar, but not blue collar. Just kind of like right on the median. My dad did software engineering. My mom was a teacher, so very typical setup. I did do some blue collar work back when I was in school. That's Christ, that's like 6, 7 years ago now. Uh, yeah, 6, 7 years ago, back when I was in school, and it spoke to me a lot. It was hard work, but it really developed a good character for myself, and kind of made me understand what hard work actually is. Standing out in the sun in 35-degree heat, 35 Celsius for all the Americans. It's like 100 Fahrenheit, give or take. So doing that every single day, doing landscaping and eventually transitioning into doing a degree in finance, right? So, professional standpoint, no, I don't have a blue collar background, but I did dabble a little bit in it.
Yeah, cool. And you mentioned a degree in finance. Did you go to university? I know you mentioned pre-call you're from Ottawa, Canada, correct? And
Yeah,
was that a
100%.
did you go to school in Canada? Was that kind of like leave your hometown? Talk to me about the university experience a little bit.
Yeah, man. So grew up in Ottawa my whole life. So yeah, 25 years now. Haven't made it out the hood yet, but I didn't leave for school. I stayed in Ottawa. I went to Carleton University, did a degree in finance, and yeah, just kind of never left. I've kind of traveled around, so it's not like I'm the hometown kid who's never left.
Yeah.
But in terms of living arrangement, that's where I've been my whole life, and it gets a lot of negative press just for being boring. But there is, a good few things to do in Ottawa, and it's a beautiful city. It's the capital of Canada ultimately. So if you're thinking about visiting, I would give it a stop by before Montreal and Toronto, but then also go there as well. Those are nice places.
All right, I love to hear that. Yeah, we don't. I think I've had a few guests on from Canada. You're my first one from Ottawa, so that's awesome.
There you go.
I love that you give us that insight.
Yeah, for
Talk
sure.
to me. Is what you do, this entrepreneurial journey you've been on, is that a rare thing from where you're from? Is that like, would you say like, or is it relatively common? I know you mentioned it's the capital city. Did you feel that kind of entrepreneurial spirit growing up, or was it kind of something you discovered, being the quote unquote outcast, as we're usually called?
Yeah, no, that's a good way of putting it. That's a fantastic question. I think a lot of the people that I surround myself with now, specifically being an A players, a lot of them, grew up in small towns, a lot with that small town mindset. So the entrepreneurial spirit was almost non-existent. Ottawa has a population of over like 1.2 maybe million people now. So to say that there's no entrepreneurial spirit and there's no entrepreneurs would be a bold-faced lie. There definitely are people there who are, becoming entrepreneurs, already are entrepreneurs and are growing insane businesses. I would just say for Canada as a whole, the mindset and the culture that we grow up in is, you go to elementary school, you go to high school ultimately, and if you don't end up going to university, then you get into a trade or you go to college to eventually get into a trade. And any deviation from that kind of natural path, I wouldn't say is frowned upon per se, but it's certainly not encouraged. There's no mindset around, chase your dream of entrepreneurship. It's like, no, everybody is going and doing the same path of high school, university, corporate job. I worked in the government and the banking for 3.5, 4 years before I got into this space. And you're not really surrounded by people who are pushing you to maybe go into entrepreneurship or have a different mindset. So that's the way I think the culture is kind of set up.
Yeah, I love that. And that's super relatable. I mean, I love that you hit on a lot of the guys in A players have that, they come from that small town mindset, myself included. St. Augustine's like the quote unquote oldest city in America. It's the oldest Spanish settlement. I'm not going to diss Delaware like that. You can't do that. Um, but yeah, I think that's super relatable. And I want to know, for those that are in that position now where they're, they're aware of all these things, but maybe they haven't taken that first step. What was that first step for you? What did that look like? Whether that was, transitioning from that finance job, if you want to start there, or even early on before that, maybe you walked into that finance job still having some of these ambitions. Just kind of talk to me about what's that first step like.
I think the first step it's different for every single person. So to speak on my own personal experience, the first step came from having 2.5 years, give or take, in the banking sector, then moving into a stage of unemployment because my contract had expired, and then landing myself what most people in my city would deem the perfect opportunity, which was to work for the government of Canada in a finance capacity. Because in the government of Canada, you're not getting fired unless you like kill somebody. Or
Okay.
yeah, like once you're in, you're in. And once you get indeterminate, which is essentially your full-time position, and they allocate a position to you full-time, you're not going nowhere unless you do some heinous shit. So once I achieved that, everybody was saying, oh, congratulations, you're set for life. And so I did a little bit of reflection on what that really meant to me. My progression to making $100,000 per year was almost over 5 years away, unless I wanted to go back and do 2 more years of intense school alongside working. So getting my accreditation, my chartered professional accountant designation. I don't like school. Had no interest in doing that. So I wasn't going to make 6 figures a year until 4 or 5 years down the road. I couldn't accept that for what it was. I wanted more. And so it was almost a culmination for me of 4.5 years of, is this really what I want to do for the next 40 years? And so I realized it's not. And, seized an opportunity that came my way to move away from that.
Okay.
And that's
Can you
kind of
talk
like
to me
what
about? Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah. What's that? Talk to me about that opportunity. How did that come to fruition? I love these stories.
So it's very random. And it's been a blessing that the opportunity presented itself to me, that I seized that opportunity. And I believe that I kind of push that into the universe with continuously thinking of, I deserve better, I am made for more. So essentially the offer that I'm on now, the owner of that offer, had a home service business for 10 years and has now leveraged that, not only skill set, but the mistakes that he made over those 10 years to help guys fast track that process. Him and I have a mutual friend. So my best friend, his girlfriend, is friends with the offer owner's girlfriend and had invited his girlfriend to her birthday party at my best friend's house. Don't go to too many of the details here and the nuances, but that's what happened. He's not the type of individual to go to those types of things, but he happened to go for the sake of being there and support. And I heard him talking a little bit about what he does. He said, oh yeah, I own this business in our city. And then I also teach guys to do this. We do it all online. And obviously working online is the sexy business model, or the job that everybody wants. I had just recently discovered prior to that I love to travel. So anything online where I had location freedom was, I could have been done doing whatever it was. I wouldn't have cared. And so I'm usually quite an introverted individual unless I know you. And I decided to go out of my comfort zone. And yeah, I think I talked his ear off for the next 2 hours until he left. And he offered me essentially an opportunity to appointment set for him. And from there, I then left to Germany to watch the Euros, which is football, or as we call it in North America, soccer. I left for 3 weeks right after that. And so I wasn't hearing back from his assistant at the time. And I was getting a little nervous. I was like, oh, I already told my friends that I might be doing this thing on the side, and he's not getting back to me. So here I go again, like saying I'm going to do something and it doesn't happen. And yeah, I didn't hear anything for 3.5 weeks. And then I got back and I didn't hear anything again because I followed up again. And essentially, in my persistent follow-up with his assistant, he tells me now to this day, like, I didn't really want to give you an opportunity because of my experience with like other North Americans. Like, the work ethic is just not there. I prefer to hire overseas. And my persistence, maybe not impressed is the right word, but he was like, all right, I'll give this fucking guy a shot. And I ran with it, man. I worked as much as I could. I made that my main priority. Don't tell the government that. I was working long hours, my 9 to 5, and then doing this on the back end. I have a background in customer service, so doing appointment setting over the phone was an absolute layup for me.
Sweet.
And I leveraged that opportunity into what I do now.
Yeah, I love that. And you hit on a few things there. Being you didn't shy away from the fact that you'd never been an appointment setter. You saw the opportunity in working for someone. Maybe not. I don't want to speak for you, of course. Maybe you had some experience there, but you were able to leverage, like you mentioned there, that customer service experience and being like, okay, like this is something I could definitely do. I'm good with people, and there's a lot of people listening to this, and they're people's people, and they don't know necessarily where to apply that. And I always say, well, sales is a great way to start. And by learning sales, you kind of learn what people want and they don't want, and you learn what works and what doesn't. And it's going to it sets you up now for the position you're in, where you're operating and you're not as much, on the appointment setting side. Can you talk to me about what it took to ultimately leave that super secure job, that quote unquote dream job for some people that might be listening to this?
Yeah, not much, man. Really all he had to do is, and again, I'm not a very risky person. I've become a lot more risky over the course of the last 12 months. I try to operate as much as I can now with like an abundance mindset. Just doing things that scare you. You should always do things that scare you no matter what. Do something hard all the time. But at the time, to leave a stable job with guaranteed income, not only guaranteed income for the year, like guaranteed income for the next 40 years, right? Because I'm not a stupid individual. Like, I wouldn't have gotten fired from that job, right? It was just the lack of progress that would have made me go crazy. So all he had to do was give me any sort of base, and I was like, yeah, I'm done. Handed in my resignation. Yeah, it was pretty funny because I had gotten my what we call indeterminate, which is that full-time position where they allocate a full-time position to you, and I left. It's like a big deal for that to happen for most people in the government. I left like 2 weeks after that. Everybody was like, even my managers were like, oh, like, we finally got you the spot, congratulations. I'm like, yeah, I'm so excited. 2 weeks later, you're gone. So
My gosh,
yeah, that's
dude.
how that played out.
It was talk to me about the feedback you got from that. I know you mentioned, you had some people that felt like they helped you a bit. Can you, take me through that experience? I don't think that gets talked about enough.
Feedback in what way? Like feedback from outside parties, like my family and my friends, or what do you mean by
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. Was there anything challenging or anything like, worth kind of that you'd say you learned from that feedback experience? I would say just taking that leap.
Yeah, I think I'm very blessed to have very supportive friends. Whether they share the same mindset or the same, desire that I have to achieve X, Y, Z is a different story. But I don't have friends who will say like, "Oh yeah, good luck, man," or who don't believe in my ability to go out and achieve something. For the most part, I would say most of my friends are very supportive, and I love them for that. And then my parents also extremely supportive. Whether or not they really believed in what I was going to go and do is a different story. And they just want you to make the right choices, right? That's what all parents want. They just want you to make the right choice and for you to be taken care of and for you to be okay and ultimately for you to be happy. And I'm blessed to have parents that believed in my ability to go out and, make something of it. They thought it was maybe a dumb decision, but they respected me for making it, so to speak.
Yeah, I love that. And I think a lot of guys and girls listening to this are definitely they feel that, and they what I always what helped me in my I had the same experience, very supportive parents, but in the same token of I could just tell there was a level of anxiousness and a little bit of anxiety,
Skepticism.
skepticism, of course. What we really I had a really good conversation with my mom, and I always give her credit for this because I think it helped put it in the perspective where we both started to accept that the opportunities I have and that you have and a lot of guys in this online space have now didn't exist when our parents were 18, 19, 20, in their 20s. So how could they relate? So once I accepted that, hey, there's no way for them to look at somebody who's really done this and believe in that. And I now I really respect that and I understand that. So anything that we kind of talk about, we kind of stem it from that perspective of they wish that they could have, but unfortunately the world has changed so much within the last 30 years. It's only changing faster that we just have to level with each other, that we are going down different paths. And there are a lot of core things our parents teach us that I find myself applying now, especially when it comes to relationship building and just ultimately taking care of people and doing the right thing, like you hit on. Like, as long as you're well intentioned with what you're doing and like they tell me you have a plan and you're taking action on it, that's what's going to help us. And that's what's going to help everybody around you. And the second that that starts to waver, be honest with yourself about that and make the pivots you need to make to, support your lifestyle and do those things. So I love that. I love that you hit on that. Now I kind of want to ask, I like to ask people a bit of a personal question. A lot of people don't know you. They might just see this and have their own perspective after this conversation. But, what do you think people get wrong about you?
That's a really good question. Wow, I don't know what to answer to that question, to be honest. What do people get wrong about me?
Or what have they gotten wrong in the past? And you can kind of be like, at that moment too.
I think for the most part, I'm a very open book, and the personality that I portray is who I really am. I seldom, will put on a persona. Maybe did when I was in high school all those years ago, but I've really learned to be comfortable being me and unapologetically so. So I don't really think that there's much that people do get wrong about me. I think maybe the only thing I can think of would be when I describe my desires and what I want from life, the lifestyle that I want to live, why I want to achieve it, the money, the taking care of the people that I love, like all the reasons why. I think when I describe that to either my parents or to my friends, they think that it's purely because I want to be rich, which is I definitely want to be rich. Like let's put that out there. But I want to be rich to enable certain things, right? I want to take care of the people that I love. I want to have the nice cars for sure. I just never want to have to worry about money, and I want to live life to the absolute fullest and have zero restriction on what that means for me. And if people believe that to just be, vain and money motivated, then so be it. You have that wrong about me, I guess. That's
Yeah.
really the only thing that I would say people get wrong.
Yeah, that's very valid. That's very valid. You're focused on the impact, and what we always hit on with is the show called The Weekly Prophet. So anytime I have the opportunity, like the way I think about wealth is very much on that level. I don't think you're truly wealthy just from a financial perspective. It's about what you're doing with it and the amount of people you can help by either the skill set, sharing the skill set that you and teaching other people that. That's why I never have a bad thing to say about coaches who are well intentioned, or it's the actual the way you can spread that wealth and impacting people in that way. Talk to me a little bit about that mission. And I know you mentioned taking care of your family and stuff. Talk to me a little bit more about the why. Let's get to know you kind of on that level. Why are we so gun ho on this? And we're definitely going to make this thing happen.
Yeah, 100%. So I think in order to kind of understand my why, like I think it's important to understand who I was only a couple of years ago.
Yeah, let's do it.
So I think in the industry, and a lot of successful people have had a hard upbringing. It might sound crazy, but I almost envy it. I had a very easy upbringing. You know, parents were well off. I did relatively well in sports, or went pretty far with that to a certain extent. Again, it's all relative. I played pro or semi-pro or anything, but like played the highest level when I was in youth, and I did like average in school. I never really had to try very hard. I got a degree with, I was like a piss take. I didn't really try very hard with that either, and so because of that, I never had a why. Why do I need to work hard? Why do I need to do this? Why do I want to be successful? And if certain things hadn't happened in my life, I would have just coasted through the next 45 years of my life being comfortable. And that's why when I look at, for example, the offer owner for the offer that I'm on right now, difficult childhood, had to really make himself or something out of nothing. And he'll never have to question why he's doing something. He has that like burning fire and desire within him that I think is lost upon a lot of us guys who grew up maybe a little bit easier. And yeah, I wish that my parents died or something? No. But I always wish I had more of a desire to do more from a younger age, because I've only been on this journey for about just over a year. And so essentially my why is now to be the best version of me, whatever that looks like at any given moment. Right. So down the road, the way I see that version of me being is I take care of my wife and my family. They never have to worry about money. They never have to worry about anything. I'm, an incredible husband. I'm an incredible father. I'm an incredible sibling. I'm an incredible son. I'm in the best physical and mental shape of my life. All the kind of factors that play into being the best version of you. That's what my why is. And then naturally, in doing that, you get all the other stuff. Right? You are rich. You are successful. You are this. You are that. And the other reasons why, to take care of people, that all trickle down effect.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, and I love that you hit on this. This is how I know so many of the guys in this group are so aligned, because it's something that I find myself telling when they ask me, and it's something that I hear honestly like repeated constantly, and it's interesting how it is almost rare in a lot of the other circles like I'm in. Like you're just in, especially growing up, it's all about money and financial success, and then not even really taking the risk or doing the necessary work to get there, and it's because the why is not strong enough. And if you come from like very similar, right? Like I don't say I had a hard upbringing, and I found myself a few years ago having like literally writing that in my notes of like, man, like what's because I knew it was going to happen. I knew something was going to trigger that would take me back to, call it ground zero, where I had to really overcome that. And if you watch some of my previous episodes, everybody knows like kind of where I came from like a year ago. And that was like my wake up call. And that's what's turned into kind of the last, 12 months. And it's going to be the momentum that takes us through the next 10, 20, 30 years to do a lot of those same things. So I really resonate with that. I think that's awesome. I do like to, flipping that question a bit. Well, not flipping that question, but I give all the guests, one opportunity. This isn't really the end of the show. It's just kind of a way to go about it.
Mm-hmm.
And you have one chance to basically ask me any question that you want. First thing that comes to mind, I have to answer it as honestly and legally as I can.
As honestly and as legally as you can. That's an interesting way of phrasing that. That's a good opportunity, I guess. How do you define character?
That might be the best question I've got on this show. I'm gonna
Pulled
ponder.
that out of the rabbit's hat right there.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one to just think of first thing to mind. Damn. How do I define character? I define character. I think I have a few parameters, I would say, in things I look for. And part of that is, does somebody recognize their past, and are they constantly progressing into becoming the best version of themselves? So like the way I define character is like, does your past define you? If I meet somebody and it seems like they've really kind of just rode the wave from high school, or they launched the one business and now there's a level of complacency, but they're almost complaining about their current situation in a way. It's like that to me kind of says more about like they don't really appreciate where they come from, or maybe they're not excited about the future. And like the things I look for at people are, do you have good pattern recognition? Are you constantly, these are the people I'm going to ultimately learn from and grow with? So yeah, I think the simplest way to put it is I define character by anybody who doesn't define themselves from their past, I think is off to a great start in terms of building good character. And then a few other things like, do they take care? What is their why? Is the why beyond who they are? Do they think they're here for them, or do they think they're here to serve others? And I think those who are here to serve others tend to have character traits that I really align with, and everything else kind of falls into place. So, does your past define you, and does their past define them?
Yeah. I think a lot of people allow their past to define who they are. The beauty of your past is that that's exactly what it is, right? So I met a guy. We won't go too deep into this tangent story here, but I met a guy in Mexico. His name is Ben. He's from Switzerland. And he showed me something as we were traveling together through Costa Rica. It was less than a year ago now. It was less than 6 months ago, actually.
That's crazy. I was just
And
there.
he has, yeah, it's my favorite, most beautiful country that I've ever been to. And so he showed me a triangle or a set of triangles, essentially something he wanted to get tattooed on him that spoke to him. I've got it tattooed on me now, just the three peaks of the mountains. So essentially, it's your past, your present, and your future, right? So your past is always going to influence your present, and your present will always influence your future because the three of them are always tied in. But as soon as you understand that your past is your past and your present is your present, then you just naturally end up living in that moment, right? Because what's the point of living in the future? Because you don't know what's going to happen. What's the point of living in the past? Because it's already happened. So as long as you just live presently and just enjoy every moment for what it is, because I mean you're alive. Like I'd rather be alive than dead. To put it simply, I think you can kind of look outwardly and take a better perspective on things. Um, yeah, your past is in the past, man. Just let it go. And again, that's easier said than done. But if I had allowed my past to define me, I would not be the man that I am today, and I would probably still be smoking weed every day and just working for the government and playing a bunch of video games and just being a fucking bum. In all honesty.
And cruising, right? Cruising. That's so interesting, man. And I want to know, kind of almost to piggyback off that question, but I want to know what what do you look for in friendships, let's say personal relationships now? What does that look like to you?
It's a great question. It's been a difficult process to understand what do I deem a true friendship and what do I deem a friendship that is good for me. So I don't know if they're gonna shit talk me for talking about them on here, but so I have two friends back home who I would quite literally take a bullet for. Full stop. I would give my life for them. I don't know if they would do the same, but I think maybe I'll have to talk. I have to talk about it, yeah, with them when I get back. But I would full stop take a bullet for them. Difference is it's a different type of friendship than the ones I have with the A players, for example. Because what I want from somebody else is to push me, and it's what I'm looking for in a partner romantically now as well. That I'm, you know, that my girl now has is push me to be the best version of myself every single day of my life. If I feel like I'm faltering, you're going to call me out on my bullshit, and you also have these goals, right? You also work hard. You also have the same goals that I do in order to just constantly feed off each other's energy, right? And a one way friendship in that sense can get really draining, especially if you're somebody with so much ambition. So to put it simply, what I would say, like what I look for in friendships now is people that have the same level of ambition and that make me feel small, make me be like, oh, I got to do more, as opposed to me feeling much bigger. Because ultimately, yeah, it's the old adage of if you're the smartest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room. And I forget where I heard this, but you're an average of the five people that you spend the most time with. So if the five people that you spend the most time with are not where you want to be or don't talk about the things you want to talk about, then you're not going to get to where you want to go.
Yeah, I love that. It's one of the key things that my parents taught me really early on. So I'm glad you brought that up. And you also hit on something there where I saw this. I think it was a Hermosi thing, and Chris Williamson asked him about what did he see in Layla that ultimately caused him to quote unquote take the risk and bring her into everything and really like grow with her. And what he said was, I finally found somebody that believed in me more than I believe in myself. And because she calls him out on his bullshit, and she, anytime he lacks, she's there to pick up the slack, and she really like believes in him to that degree. And as men, we go through these waves, some of us daily, of, we're on top of the world and we're aware that it could all come crashing down. And that's a very, I talked about this with my buddy Lars on the way home from the airport yesterday, literally from Costa Rica. That's why this is so synchronistic. It's like,
Yeah.
we were talking about that same concept of, and he was just like, yeah, man, like it is a battle, and everybody goes through it every day. But he also said the more he surrounds himself with guys like me, and like we surround ourselves in environments like we were in with 6 other entrepreneurs, it's like you don't even question it when you're in those environments. It's like everybody, because you almost feel like everybody's doing the same thing and they want feedback on this because that's going to help them with that kind of anxiousness and stuff like that. And having a partner who, whether they're in entrepreneurship or not, it's like, do they believe in who you are, where you're going, and your intentions? And that's so important. And I always say, don't settle. I've been single 5 years. I just made a very open statement about that on my Instagram story about our program, and a kid I was helping who just went through. He said he lost himself after he lost his girlfriend. He doesn't know like what he's going to do and all this. And it was like, first college girlfriend. I related to it on a deep, deep level. And it was like very much the same thing where I go, bro, you have to be okay with these next couple of years finding you. You got to be cool with, what's the value you're going to bring? Because she stepped into that relationship for the version of you that you were, and then you started adjusting to be who she wanted you to be, and that's not what she bought into.
I love
So
that.
yeah, and I thought like there was just perfect timing on that. Now, what do you think? And if you have anything to say on that, I don't mean to interrupt, but I got one more question for you on that. Yes.
Yeah, for sure. I love Alex Hormozy, by the way. I think if you're someone who feels like you want to take a step up in life and just change the way that you view ambition and separate yourself from all the noise from the 9 to 5 and just put your head down and work, there might not be a better person on the planet to listen to than Alex Hormozy. Is the longevity there for most people in terms of what he practices and what he preaches? Probably not. I think he's unique and one of a kind. But if you want to go through a season like I've been of just my head is down, all I care about is work. It's my number one priority. Work in myself, and then personal relationships third. Then there's nobody better to listen to than Alex.
What's something people can? What's one thing you think everyone can learn from you?
What's one thing everyone can learn from me? Try to stay humble. I don't think that there's much right now that people can learn from me. Oh, maybe that's not so much true. I think the one thing that people can learn from me is that even if you have absolutely zero fucking work ethic, you can completely 180 and develop a work ethic that you didn't even think existed inside of you. Right? If you're someone feeling like a bum every day, going your 9 to 5 job, waking up, sitting in traffic for an hour, and you feel content with that, but you kind of feel like you want something a little bit more, right? But it's like, oh, that's hard. I don't have the work ethic for that. I understand where you're coming from. You can build it. It's fucking hard. You can build it. I did it. I went from not giving a fuck about anything to, and again, this is a Hormozy quote: hard work is the goal. I wake up in the morning not to achieve X, Y, Z, and arguably not to become the best version of myself. I wake up in the morning so I can put in a shift and work hard. Because as long as you do that, then all the things that you want to achieve come naturally. And it allows you to audit yourself every single day at the end of the day and look back and say, did I really do all the things that I could have done? Did I put in the amount of input that I could have put in? Rather than a 6 month time frame where I can look back and say, man, was I the best version of myself in the last 6 months? I guess it's just a way larger scope. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I really resonate with that. And I think you've hit on, like, you've even pointed people in the right direction of people that have done it for so long, and people that we've both mutually just naturally learned from in this process. And also, yeah, just like, yeah, that hits. There's not too much to say. I'm not going to cloud that one, because that was gold.
Just what if you're feeling lost and you just want a reason to work hard, just listen to fucking Alex Hormozy. Is it going to be the thing that you listen to for the next 30 years or even the next 2 years? Probably not. Like, you'll graduate to some deeper thought speaking, but Yeah, it's almost part of our onboarding process in our offer. Guys that are starting out who are like, I'm thinking specifically of a guy in the last month who was working a bartending job. He's like in his early 30s, right? His like girlfriend is like, oh, like, you're gonna do something else. He's like, oh, I want to take care of my girl, like, all this stuff. I'm like, okay, great, but do you really though? How badly do you want it? And I'm part of his onboarding intake. I just recommended like 5 Alex Hormozy podcasts, and I don't think he's stopped watching them since. And he's changed his life completely, right? So
Yeah, that's fucking awesome, dude. So now, one thing I want to you be. I'm not gonna say you're the first one, but I piggyback off this from Stephen Bartlett, who's just a great podcaster, and I love the way that he conducts himself on his shows. And he gives, and we're about to do a bunch of A players here. We're about to go on a freaking run with A players, so I can't wait. What is one question you have for my next guest?
I think I already know who your next guest is, which is the funny part. It's
Yeah, he's the one I'm recording today. And if you'd prefer it be a random one, I'm happy to hold yours for the next couple people. But if you want me to ask him one and I won't tell him that it came from you. He has no idea I mean, he might know we're having this conversation, but he has no idea. Like,
yeah,
he'll have to figure that out himself.
he's a great guy. I'll give you a question, then I'll leave it up to you to decide who you want to ask it to.
Okay, perfect.
But I think what my question would be, I want to ask the same one that I asked you.
Okay.
And maybe expand on it a little bit, right? How do you define character, and what's your definition? Like, how do you view integrity?
Cool.
That's what I would ask.
Sweet. Got it.
Because I think the thing that really makes a man is how they look inward, right? And also how you judge others. Because in the online space, you're going to be surrounded by a lot of vain individuals who are in it for the short term. I think the beauty of A players, the community that we're in, is the thing that James preaches the most is I don't want to hit that 100K month. Like we've been there. I want to have 20 million in the bank account in 5 years, 10 years. I want to have an absolute fucking compound with everybody that I care about in 10 years time. I don't care about buying the Rolex. I care about buying the Aston Martin. I care about the generational wealth that I'm going to build for my family, like my kids, their kids. That's what matters. And I think if you can properly define character in the way that you view it, and it kind of naturally magnetizes to that, then you're set up for success from the get-go.
Yeah, I love that, man. That's awesome. I might weave in both of those. I probably will weave in both of those. Yeah, he might not even know where they come from. So yeah, no, I love that, man. That's awesome. Tristan, I can't thank you enough, man. Any final thoughts, anything you want to leave us with? I know we're going to do part 2 in person within the next 12 months. You have my word on that. But yeah, man, any final thoughts? I really appreciate this.
Any final thoughts? Any final thoughts? I'm not one for going out with a bang or anything, but I think the message that I want to portray to guys that are starting out and kind of had the same upbringing that I did, like the easy one, didn't really care about much, didn't really have to work so hard, and now they find themselves in a rut that you can get out of it. It's going to be a painstaking process, and you're not going to have the reason why that all these other guys seem to have, like, my divorced parents or whatever it may be, like whatever the reason why is, difficult upbringing. Like, you're not going to have that. You're going to have to build that from scratch, and it's going to be hard. But when you come out on the other side, I was going to say it's super fulfilling, but it's actually just kind of a kick in the nuts, because success is a horizon. And I think this is a Hormozy quote as well. Success is a horizon. Every step you take towards it, it takes one step farther away from you. So as soon as you build that level of hard work and that desire and that why, well, the rest of your life is cooked now, because all you want to do is just get better. And you're never going to be the best, like it's just a paradoxical statement. But
All right,
yeah,
awesome, man.
you can get there.
Yeah, I love that, and I'm so glad you've harnessed on your position, because I do get a lot of the, this is the trigger, and I can't relate to some of those triggers, but I can totally like see why they've done what they've done. I don't get a ton of guys more or less like myself, where we really do. It's a new level of creating adversity, which sounds counterintuitive, but as you guys can see, it definitely pays off, and it's super fulfilling, and you won't get tired of playing the game. Tristan, thank you so much. I'm going to pause it here, and we'll just chat for a few minutes after.
For sure. Pleasure.
Of course.